Identical twins. Have you ever gone into work, school, or some other occasion to cover your twin? How did it work out? My dad is an identical twin. He has some stories. He did tell me of the time when he was in college that he asked his brother to cover for him in a Friday afternoon class so my dad could leave town early to get back to his girlfriend. My dad and my uncle were majoring in the same subjects so that helped, but they had different electives. I did help that most of the students in the class knew both my uncle and my dad, so they helped my uncle out when he got cornered by a question every once in a while. The prof never caught on. My sister, Devon Cakes, and I were in the same kindergarten class and we had the brilliant idea to switch seats. Our seats were on opposite sides of the room, and pretend to be one another as a joke. We both asked to be excused from the restroom and went in together. Then we went into separate stalls and passed our clothes to each other under the stalls while giggling at how this was such a good idea. I remember doing a worksheet and I tried to write with my left hand. She's left-handed, and I had no idea how to spell her name so I kept looking at a pencil holder she made that had her name on it. Eventually the rest of the class caught on and started doing pranks of their own and the whole class was starting to get out of control. Kids were laughing while the teacher was trying to talk, shouting random crap out loud, and one kid got up and hid behind the teacher's back like in a cartoon. Our teacher got so upset that she started to cry. That teacher also happened to quit after that fateful year in kindergarten. Identical mirror twin here. It never worked out well for us. We look similar but personality wise we're pretty easy to tell apart. The face would get you in the door but 5 minutes later it's straight to the principal's office. My sister and I are identical mirror twins too. Her personality is much more sassy than mine. I did in 11th grade, went into my sister's French class. The teacher was an idiot and didn't notice. I don't even speak French and have only ever taken Spanish. Some other kids told him and I got kicked out. Ukara0 is somewhere in this thread so I'm gonna tag her in case I get more karma than her so I can show off. Anywho, to answering the question, when we were about 18 or 19, I used to work for a sandwich chain known for their speedy delivery service. Delivering sandwiches was fun and all, however, $50 paychecks are not fun. Meanwhile, Kara0 got a really good job at a department store known for their usage of the color red in their logo. She was making about $10 an hour as a cashier, so I was quite jealous. Kara is a real people person and managed to sweet talk HR into giving me a job there as a cashier. Once she had told me the news, I immediately went to the sandwich place, high on adrenaline, and quit without putting in a 2 weeks notice. Talk about living life on the edge. Right, yes, my boss tried to talk me out of it but somehow I managed to stand my ground. This was like climbing a mountain for me, lol. While not often enough, occasionally, our schedules would overlap. People really look at you like you're a circus act when your exact copy is working the checkout lane that's right next to yours. Well, guess who starts to make their way towards my lane? My old boss. I had felt like such a jerk for quitting without notice. At this point, Kara is about to head out on her lunch break when I ask to borrow her name tag, just in time before my old boss got to my register. To shorten this drawn out story, it worked, but I accidentally threw his gift card in the trash because I was so nervous and had to dig through it for him. I'm gonna tag her in case I get more karma than her so I can show off. You frickin' bee. Not me but my old 3rd grade teacher. He had told the class multiple times before that he has an identical twin brother, but none of us believed him. We may have been 3rd graders but we weren't stupid. Well, one day he tells us that we'll have a substitute teacher the next day, and that this sub will be his brother. Holy crap. Okay, we were 3rd graders. It may have been holy duddy. The next day rolls around, and lo and behold, this guy that looks exactly like our teacher is sitting at the desk. When asked, he said the only difference was that his nose isn't broken. The real teacher had broken his nose in an accident playing football in college, and this we knew. His voice sounded different and he wasn't wearing glasses, real teacher did. So we were all certain this was the brother. Then finally, many months later, on the last day of school, the teacher tells us that he does have an identical twin brother, but that wasn't him we met. That was just the teacher wearing contacts instead of glasses and disguising his voice. Fooled us good. Once started a conversation with my sister's maths teacher who didn't know I wasn't my sister, or that she had a twin at all. It got too far down the conversation for me to correct her because I didn't want to make her feel embarrassed. She kept asking me more and more questions about the exam that my sister had just done, which I had no clue about, and I kept trying to bluff my answers, but I got more and more stressed that eventually I snapped and said, "Miss, I'm really sorry. I have no clue what you're talking about. I'm not sister. I'm her sister. Me. I didn't take the exam." The worst thing is we have rhyming names. So when I told her, I could just see her thinking this girl is actually trying to give me this half-assed lie. She thinks I'm dumb. Like those teenage TV shows where the character sees someone they want to avoid and they're like, haha, I'm not Rob. I'm his brother. Bob. Cue sitcom laughter soundtrack. No, but there were a few times where she's gone into my work when I wasn't there and people mistook her for me. I suppose she's lucky they didn't try to get her to cover for me. Haha. My twin and I work at the same place but different departments in different uniforms, and still many of our co-workers get us mixed up. At some point it is just easier to not correct them unless, as you said, they try saying something about shifts or anything else of importance. Identical twin. The issue that a lot of people overlook about this whole swap is that even though you might look like someone, your behavior is different and there's a ton of detailed information you would need to know to pull it off. But when my brother and I did it in 3rd grade, I didn't even bother to ask him what desk was his. Plus twins might not have the same haircut. One day I was sick in high school, but my mom made me still go to school. I had an in-class essay that was 25% of my grade that day, and since my sister had that class earlier in the day and got to see the prompt, I convinced her to do it for me. We have different clothing styles, so we switched clothes and she wrote my essay, which I got a B+ on. I was happy with that considering I was pretty sick and couldn't have done that. We decided to just go the whole day like that and no teachers caught on. Another time that kinda sucked though was also in high school when my twin fell in front of everyone at lunch. It got around that I was the one who fell. My boyfriend even came to me making sure I was okay. I was so embarrassed because literally the whole school was laughing about it. Obviously my sister didn't do much to make it clear it wasn't me, lol. There were times when I have also done embarrassing things and said it was my twin. Comes in handy. Now I have bleach blonde hair and people can easily tell who is who. But we live in different cities so we can't switch much anyways. My school separated the twins. So we had this set in my level in grade 5. Let's call them David and Chris. We had Chris in our class that year. Lovely kid. Kept his hair at a shaggy length. David was in another class. He had a very short haircut. So one day David walks into our class and tries the "oh I got my haircut" line, to which we all call bulls. Eventually our teacher shows up and she spots it right away and tells him to go back to his class. Meanwhile in David's class, all the kids are giggling at Chris sitting casually at the front while the teacher is completely oblivious. She didn't notice until David walked in and told Chris that he got busted. My kids aren't identical, but there's a lot of them at our twin playgroup. One set is always color coded. Ben wears blue, Glenn wears green, kinda deal. Anyway, one day Ben's getting up to mischief and when he was called out on it, he said no, I'm Glenn, thinking that switching names would get him out of trouble. Saw identical twin girls dressed in identical outfits at a playground in San Diego a few weeks ago. Seems like a bad idea. Me and my twin have a thing where when we're not together and someone mistakes us for the other, we just pretend to be the other. I've actually had lunches with people I don't know, because at that point I'm in too deep, and it's scary. What's also weird is when the person people recognizes us, so we play along, but then it ends up that neither of us even knew them. I'd love to know more. My brothers switched places a couple times. They kept doing it and eventually lost track. They still don't know who they are. I'm not sure why, but this gave me a great deal of anxiety. Existential crisis imminent. Had a pair of twins in my elementary school. Unlike most identical twins, they didn't mind being mistaken for each other, had the same haircut and matching school bags etc, and enjoyed pranking teachers. Well, we had a few substitute Teachers over the course of a week because our teacher had done something to his leg. The twins decided to make the relief teacher's lives heck by constantly switching places, doing each other's worksheets and handing them in as the other twin and blaming the other twin for something the first one had done. Each day, the poor teacher got more and more confused because she, depending on the day, couldn't figure out who had done what and the whole class was in on it. It finally peaked when one twin found a skink and put it on the teacher's desk. After the skink ran out of a pile of papers which made the female reliever scream, she proceeded to send both twins to the principal. He was a spineless T. I was being bullied mercilessly at that school and he turned a blind eye to it. But that is another story entirely. In the end, they received nothing but a slap on the wrist and spent one morning tea time picking up rubbish. They were quite the pair and both had a wicked sense of humor. Not sure what happened to them after I moved from that school, but I hope they are doing well. One morning tea time picking up rubbish is possibly the most British phrase I have ever heard. My sister is way better at taking selfies than me, so I use them sometimes. I do video editing work and it has definitely helped sales a bit. I figured since we look the same it's not really wrong. Same man. Same. 3rd grade, I decided I hated the kids in my class and he hated the kids in his class. The night before our scheme we grabbed our yearbook and taught the other twin the entire class, names, personality towards the twin, etc. No one to this day knows we did it, not even our parents. I have a feeling we are never telling anyone till we did. We occasionally joke about it with each other though. When we were very young, probably in 3rd grade, my sister and I swapped classes to take a test for each other. This way, we would pick the subject we preferred and take a repeat of the same test for the other. Everything was planned out, what time we'd meet at outside the bathrooms connecting our classes, where our seats were, and how to get back to our proper classrooms afterwards. Everything went pretty smoothly, but we forgot one key element. Being identical twins didn't mean that our handwriting would be the same, and both teachers immediately noticed the change. My twin and I switched places in 2nd grade to fool our teacher. We would have succeeded, too, if it weren't for those meddling kids. Rah. Never went to actually cover anything for him. But one day, I was going to an event that my twin was already in and used the excuse of I forgot to get a pass to get back in. They recognized me from already being in there and let me through. Nice. Hate to be that not be but a friend guy, but I digress. Had a buddy from college who had an identical twin. His brother came to visit one weekend and debauchery ensued. We lost track of him at some point at a bar, but when texted he said all was well. He had just left with a lady. Fast forward a few weeks and my friend gets slapped in the middle of campus by the same girl. Apparently after he gave her his number his brother never texted her back. Needless to say she didn't buy the identical twin thing at first. Never, but I had people call me by my twin's name while walking about, in my early 20s. Of course I don't notice, and they end up thinking my twin snubbed them. Also people I never met end up randomly recognizing me as my twin's twin and chat with me. I never even shared homework assignments with my twin. If my twin had a test before I did, we would not discuss it. I get asked questions like this one on occasion, but we never really considered using our twin status to hoodwink people or gain an advantage. We were so identical, I cannot tell us apart in old photographs sometimes. I am a bit surprised you didn't notice. My sister is 5 years older than me and I still respond to her name from being mixed up growing up. I don't have an identical twin, but my cousins are. Sometimes they would pretend to go to the bathroom together during their soccer games so that they could switch if one needed a break. Not a twin, but I went to school with 2 identical twins. I was in choir with one, physics with the other, unaware of their twinness at this point. I missed physics one day and when I got to choir I said, "Hey Bob, what did I miss in physics today?" And he looked at me like I was friggin' nuts. Finally, after some awkward confused silence, another person chimed in and said, "Oh, dude, she must be talking about Bill," and then everyone started laughing and he explained to me he was a twin, and here's the thing. He's a notorious jokester, a true clown. So I thought he was joking and did not believe him. He also is missing 1 stroke 2 of a finger from an accident as a kid. So he was like, "Go up to me in physics tomorrow and ask to see my nub." And no crap I did. The other twin and I had a laugh about it as well. After I knew, things all made sense. He would never talk to me in physics but would joke and be friendly with me in choir. He was also kinda popular and jockish, and so I chalked it up to it being a jock thing. You know where they are only friends with the lame people when no one is looking? Nope, it was his twin. I think you and Yuholi Otazotaku went to the same school. I'm an identical twin and this story dates back to when we were about 8. So one time I got in trouble for something I don't remember and my mom was like, go in your room and don't come back out for the rest of the afternoon, and she meant it. Being in my room with nothing to do or to play with to keep me from being bored, I shouted for my twin sister. She came in my room and I asked her for a favor. We call it a twin favor. So I told her that I wanted to go downstairs, watch TV for about 15 minutes and grab a snack, and then I'll be back and in return I'll do her chores for a week. We switched clothes and I went to do everything I said. Everything was going pretty good and my mom didn't even notice we switched because it was hard to tell the difference between us back then. Now that we're older, we told her about that story and she couldn't believe it and just laughed about it in the end. We did the twin favor many a time in high school and one time we got caught. Botany, but my mom is a 4th grade teacher. When I was young, maybe 11, she taught at a school where there were 3 4th grade teachers and one of them had twin boys. When they hit 4th grade my mom was already familiar with them because, like me, they would spend afternoons after school at their mom's classroom. Anyway, the boys are in 2 separate classes for the year, neither of them in their mom's classroom. One of the boys' teacher was out and had a sub for the week. They decide a day or two in is the day they'll switch places. My mom starts the lesson in her class that day, looks up to call on a kid, notices that they're all distracted and looks straight at Zach, one of the twins, and as a double take, "Zach, what are you doing in my class?" Zach goes, "I'm forgot the other kid's name. What are you talking about?" She glares at him and he tries one more time to convince her with some random fact. She just says something to the effect of, "Go switch back and don't do it again." I always get a good chuckle thinking back to how surprised the sub must have been in the other class when he came in to switch places. The boys were disappointed that it didn't work like it does on TV, but honestly they just got unlucky because my mom is a dedicated teacher who knows and cares about her students pretty personally. In happy that your mom cares about her students, me and my twin brother's teacher give 0 fricks and we switch a ton. I'm an identical twin. More than once people in public think I'm my brother or vice versa. I've covered for my brother a few times in classes through all of school up to university, though all were non-mandatory so there was no academic dishonesty or anything. Worked out fine though most of the class knew what was up. I've also done some swapping for sports and the like, and when you're in uniform people can't usually tell. Help that we played the same sport and all that. Identical twin here. Nope. We never switched places. Those who knew us well could tell us apart by our personalities, and we were in many of the same classes through high school. We also fought a lot growing up, so we weren't often trying to do each other favors. We're much closer now that we're all grown up. Having a twin is not as practical as you might think, but it is fun. My mom used to tell me a story all the time to the point where it was traumatizing. I had an identical twin brother who literally died for me during birth. They tried taking him out first but his cord was stuck around my neck or something. They ended up trying to get me out of her stomach with him barely out of her womanhood. The doctors said that he wasn't going to make it off. They did a C-section and that both of us would be strangled if they did it naturally. So my brother got sacrificed for me to be brought through a C-section. Identical twin here. Never covered for my brother but did switch a class or two every now and then in high school. Never got caught. My cousins are twins and one of them went to a big interview for the other one. She got the job for her. They had to be separated in elementary school after trying to switch places in class. Well, when one of us has been scared to ask the teacher for something, we have asked the other one to do it for us. When she did it for me, she got yelled at. When I did it for her, her teacher somehow came to the assumption that she was foreign. I don't know how I spoke to make him think that, but we have also just traded classes because, why not? No one noticed, not even people we had went to school with for 10 years. It was a pretty easy day, except she failed my test because the teacher changed the date. She also got yelled at for not knowing her password, and that was after she had ruined my reputation by talking too much when just the day before the teacher was saying how sweet I was. We also had to embarrassingly ask the teachers a few times where we sat, even though we should have known, but it wasn't enough to make them suspicious. We plan to do more stuff in the future. Also, every time when we go to the amusement park we use each other's passes just for fun with each other's pictures on them. Didn't swap classes, but at school my sister's teachers would always come up to me and ask me how I found a presentation or something like that, and I'd have to awkwardly explain that I was a twin and I'm not actually in their class, that they teach my sister, not me. They were always so surprised, and then all the "are you identical?" questions. Well, you seem to think I was her, so isn't it pretty obvious we're identical? It was even more awkward when the school counselor, who regularly saw my sister, saw me and my dad at parent-teacher interviews and thought I was my sister. I felt too awkward to tell him I wasn't her, so I just went along with it. And it seems my dad did too. Oh, and one more time that sticks out is when I was invited out to lunch with my boyfriend and his family to the cafe where my twin sister's boyfriend used to work. Get your head around that one real quick. And obviously the boss knew my sister because she would always come in to see her boyfriend. So we're having lunch and the boss comes over and recognizes me and says, "You're so and so's girlfriend," and I said, "Oh no." Then he goes, "Oh, so you're the other one?" "Yes, thank you, I now only am referred to as the other one." Speaking as an identical twin, I think people have this idea that those in your workplace wouldn't be able to tell you apart. For me and my sister at least, especially since we have separate places of work, people would notice immediately. I think it matters if you meet us together or apart. Together equals confusion. Apart equals clarity. I have twin aunts and twin uncles, and the uncles would go to each other's classes all the time just for the heck of it. My brother did for me in college. We had a class together. During one of our exams, everyone failed except for 2 people, him and another guy. The professor thought it was unacceptable and gave a retake. My brother said he'd take it for me. I gave him my ID, just to prove he's me. When the grades came out, he got me the highest grade in the class. Since a lot of people are talking about how many sets of twins they know or have in their family, there are 8 sets of identical twins in my family, including my brother and me. My twin and I played semi-pro football together, and one day he missed a game because he was deathly sick, so I was asked to do all his duties plus mine. I played defense, and on kickoffs, he played offense and was a gunner. I lit it up that day and all my stats got attributed to him on the website. I'm a twin too, but we were never able to swap places with each other in school, mainly because he's 10x smarter than me. I'd fail all his math classes. I did, however, jokingly, say to my old boss, "Yay, my twin should come in and do my job for a bit. Ahaha," and he said flatly that's a security violation. So sadly, we're boring twins. Not me, but some old co-workers of mine were twins. They dressed similarly, suit and tie place, and had very similar haircuts, but one wore glasses and the other contacts. Usually the easiest way to tell them apart. They worked in different departments and had different bosses. One day, maybe for Halloween I think, they decided to switch jobs for the day to see if anyone noticed. No one did. They ended up telling everyone at the end of the day. As a bonus story, my sister and I aren't twins but used to look extremely alike. So much so we won twin contests in our school. We used to get confused for each other by our co-workers, and sometimes it would take some convincing that we weren't their co-worker. My brother used to do exams and tests for me in high school. When the exams would start, I would skip math and few other subjects which I was not good at and let my brother do it for me on the next day or so. I felt guilt and remorse but excitement at the same time, even though I was ready to take them and get a good grade. But to do this and not get caught makes you feel invincible. We were young and stupid. What can I say? It was funny because all the students in the class won't say a word to the teachers and just cheer for us. It was like in the movies. Shout out to all the professors having twins in their schools and treating them like one person XD. But that ended quickly at university, when they wouldn't allow us to sit or do the exams separately, rather at the same time with 2 assistants above our heads. Feels bad man. Equals. There is many more situations, but that is for another time. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.